I was going to ask you about the example that you had with GoPro and Kelly Slater and so on. I just wanted to know, like, what was he advertising on that? Was that a GoPro thing or a Kelly Slater thing, or is that just his own brand?
The idea behind that was that the content was so engaging that we literally consumed the content the the branded content, the advertising piece as we were consuming content. And of course, it was GoPro branded at the end of the content. What was great in that piece is that we didn't actually get drawn into it by the brand, but by the experience, by the quality of what that message was. I've never seen anywhere else this type of, Kelly Slater literally commenting on his run and just saying, I was a little bit too much backwards and I could have done this better. It's almost like a surf lesson by Kelly Slater, and that's brought to you by GoPro. So to me, it's a form of advertising in a way, but it's more about the experience that the brand brings you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I agree. I think it's the whole experience that he's brought you through.
Exactly. And I think just back on GoPro, and then I'll just touch on some other examples as well. I got into the brand experience with the surfing because it's what I love. But then I discovered some other things like this amazing guy playing with lions. I'm not into animals that much, but what I saw in that YouTube channel was just fantastic. And then I saw people diving with whale sharks, and then I saw people cycling, skateboarding, whatever it might be, which are not my passion, but because the brand put it in such a nice way, I just kept consuming more and more of their content and then started to think I could use this product myself for, playing with kids, cooking, whatever it might be. And that's really what I think they've done really well in bringing you the kind of desire to use their products and connect with their brand in a really good way.
Hi, Kieran from Mindshare. It's nice of Alice to put on a whole event based on my presentation and Christmas. No, but seriously, some amazing stuff. I guess my question, and it's kind of what I was trying to get to for Christmas, is to anyone on the panel, how do we scale this stuff, right? I thought you made some great points about the fact that native kind of goes back to TV, goes back to press. I guess you could say P&G invented it with the soap opera. But with those, you kind of make it once and then you can broadcast it everywhere. If you make a Vine, it only really works on Twitter. If you make an Instagram video, that's a different format. If you make a Facebook post, that's a different format to Twitter. Do you see what I mean? Like, how do you scale that? I think the Oreo had 15 people involved in it. So how do brands who have limited resources, more channels than ever to use, and budgets are actually getting cut, how do actually they create scale? Because scale is what drives sales.
So the choice is like, you can create shitty banner ads that can go everywhere, or you can do something great that people will share on your behalf. I'm paraphrasing. I'm being a little bit of a dick, but I mean, BuzzFeed, we have 150 million people worldwide. Facebook has 1 billion people worldwide. Twitter, 250 million people worldwide. And so to me, and the other thing is, like, when you create social content, when you create these cool Vine executions, it's not like you have to be so precious and spend $500,000 filming a 30-second TV commercial, right? Like, you can do lots of stuff. We tell our consumers, don't just try one post, do 5 or 10 and see what works. They're easy to create, and I think that's what you were saying, is you try things, you see what goes, and then you could buy scale on Facebook and Twitter. And then the very exciting thing for us is that when people organically share it, you're getting all this word-of-mouth marketing at scale that is free. So I think it's a legitimate question, but I think that just the fact that this is what consumers are doing, this is what they want, it's cool, it's not that expensive, I think the scale question will solve itself.
Do the articles stay?
Yes.
Permanently?
Yes.
They're part of the system. This is the interesting thing, right? So, I mean, I suppose one question I've got is how much scale do you want? Because these platforms are pulling some massive numbers. But on the flip side to that, is this leaderboard I found on nativeadvertising.com shows you articles that are trending at #1 that are probably about 8 months old. So you've got this long tail going on that's really quite incredible. So you get the spikes that we see over Super Bowls and stuff like that. But what I think is really interesting is the fact that where paid, you turn it off at a set time, you've used all your CPM, all that kind of stuff. This stuff lives on. So you're building a permanent home for that opinion, for that humor, for that insight you're giving people, and they can keep coming back to it. And I think that's the interesting part of this as well, is you actually create something permanent, not disposable. And that's the biggest benefit of an earned outcome, is the fact that this thing can keep going. I mean, what we found with that Facebook video for Oak, the recruitment video, I think in the first instance we had like 100,000 views, 200,000 views, let's say, from it. We were really happy with that. That's like a massive number in Australia most of the time. And now the thing just keeps going. And, and then we climbed up to 1.2 million eventually. So we're really happy with the fact that this thing lives on and continues to be a really great way into the brand experience. And I think particularly in the editorial platforms, that's amazing. So you've got a permanent piece of content that lives on this platform for eternity. Does that work for Fairfax too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
right.
same. Yeah, I think the critical bit in the whole process is the production of the content, right? Like if you produce content that's really relevant to the audience, like it can live on forever, and it doesn't matter where you promote it. Content is always or content marketing is always an opt-in mechanism, right? So the right people will find it, and the right people will engage with it, which gives you the opportunity to reuse something that you've produced over the course of 12 months if you wanted to, right? And just use different channels. Like you might start out on the SMH, then you put it on Twitter, then you start promoting it through Outbrain. It doesn't really matter. You will reach the right people with the content.
Hi guys, really great presentations from all of you. It's Alistair from the BBC. Question for Felix regarding really what the Fairfax policy is towards integrating content into the editorial streams within your native solutions, and also how you navigate and what your experiences have been in terms of navigating those kind of conversations with advertisers and their agencies.
Sure. I mean, the distinction between editorial and native content is really strict. So as I showed in the demo earlier of the Zurich example, in each case we have the disclaimer saying that it's advertiser or content produced for an advertiser, which is really critical for us because we don't want people to think that we're selling out basically, and that all of a sudden like our newsroom gets emailed briefs every day, and people don't find time to do their regular job or something like that. So we have an extensive network of about 200 freelance writers. And in some cases, they're contributors to the masthead brands, but they're definitely not sitting in our newsroom, right? So that's kind of the distinction that we make. Every journalist at Fairfax can get involved in a native advertising project if they want to, but generally speaking, we keep a very tight distinction between the two. We've got the numbers, like editorials traditionally, like achieve really low engagement. The more editorially driven it is, the higher the engagement. That's the rule of thumb, right? We've got these numbers available. And we always start out the conversation, like with native advertising, the advertiser gets sign-off at any stage of the content production process. But we say the more changes you make and the more you skew the content to just accidentally mention your brand within the flow without it being relevant to the content, the less engagement you will have. And all the brands we've been working with so far have agreed with that approach, and it has worked for them.
Hi guys. I guess this question is for Andy. We've heard a little bit from everybody about reaching people with the right message and the right platform at the right time. And I think something that's interesting to me is brands like Coca-Cola, who have redone their website to have sort of a newsroom of branded content. Do you think that there is a role or a difference for branded content that's being published on Coca-Cola.com versus something like BuzzFeed?
That's a good question. I think that if it lives on Coca-Cola.com, it can be a little bit more brand specific. But realistically, how many people are going to Coca-Cola.com? Like 2 or 3, maybe. I mean, like there's nobody there's, right? So I think that Coke can identify with being refreshing and happiness and being around friends and polar bears. I don't understand why polar bears, by the way, but they can align. Like if they were to do well on BuzzFeed, they'd have to choose some brand pillars and themes that were a little bit broader for consumers to like and share them.
Hi, Sam from carsales.com. My question's around user experience. I know the social networks do a lot of testing on tolerance for different ad types and things like that. But I'm wondering if there's some shared experiences from everyone on what's the user tolerance and in terms of how much native advertising they think in the future people can tolerate? And Andy, is there a limit to how many cat slideshows we can get?
There's no limit. That's a really good question. So if Alice was saying if 2013 was the year of buzz, no, what was it? Native advertising is a buzzword, as you said. I think 2014 is now you have to differentiate between good native advertising and bad native advertising.
Luke Madison from news.com.au. My question is for Andy. Increasingly in this market, we're seeing a lot of advertisers coming to us with content that's been produced by third parties. So a brand will work with an external content production house and then supply that content to a range of media partners. How much is BuzzFeed moving into that content generation for clients that has a life outside of the BuzzFeed world?
Yeah, well, that would be fantastic for us if brands would work with a credible content creator and then give us the content that we would distribute and promote. We'd love that. What we
The
found,
unfortunate thing is a lot of the content, it doesn't really work for every brand.
yeah, to answer your question, so if it's great content that people will like and share, then we could use it. But, you know, and we have a few brands that can do it. And a few brands create it themselves, and it's awesome, and we do it. But for the majority of our brands, they give us content, and our creative team looks at it, and we do that Facebook test, and we tweak it, and we go back and forth. So it's something that's both on brand, yet consumers will like it. So I think we're going to iterate a little bit about this, and we'll find a happy medium. But God, if Australia is a market that creates awesome content, it'll be a blessing for us.